Hello, welcome to the PVCC Student Lens podcast. I'm Esperanza.
I'm Noél.
And I'm Victory.
And today we are talking about occupations. So we're talking about jobs, maybe potential careers, stuff like that. So I want to start off just by going in the line like we usually do in our introduction. So I currently work, or should we?
Yeah, no, we can do that first. We can do that first.
Okay. I was going to say, because I currently work at Madison School District as a Mac Adventure Club leader. So it's basically like an after-school program, and I just monitor kids.
And right now I'm currently employed as a manicurist, which I have been employed as a manicurist for 30 years, and I'm actually self-employed. I've run my own business, and I do that one day a week because I'm also a full-time student for the past 3 years. So that's what I do.
And I am a field manager for grassroots voter outreach. I do a lot of canvassing. Currently, we are doing fundraising for the Human Rights Campaign. And I am also, like the rest of us, we're all full-time students. So that's like an additional job that we have to pay to do.
Right.
But yeah, it's also an additional
like
time.
Okay, so let's get into past jobs. Okay, so I'm gonna start first. So past jobs, my first ever job was for Starbucks. As a first job, sure, it's a good entry level job if you're just starting off, but you want to have a good environment, especially if you're queer. It's probably just a better environment for a job because it's more open and stuff like that. I would say though, if you're going in and you're like, I've had a couple jobs, I want to try Starbucks, I wouldn't recommend it as maybe your third or fourth job, just because it was an environment that didn't work for me personally. Just because there was a lot going on. I had customers yelling, screaming in my face before. I found
customer service is hard.
Yeah.
It is very hard. And if you're a naturally good people person, drive-through is the thing for you. Because they always put me on drive-through. They never put me on drinks. They're like, oh, I don't think we need to put Esperanza on drinks. She does better when she's in drive-through. But what I did learn from working at Starbucks is that I do have good people skills. I learned that. And then I also learned that my addiction of coffee will never go away. And then my second job before my job that I currently have is I worked at Kohl's, which honestly was a very good level entry job as well. I would highly recommend that, especially if you're just starting up, you're not really sure what to do, just because there's not that many customers, or if there is, the demographic is typically an older generation, and they're not polite, very polite. They're not as feisty as you'd. If I'm working at a Target, it's you're about to fist fight someone, or even Walmart. But in Kohl's it's super chill, and I liked working there. I worked in the Amazon counter, and unfortunately I got a lot of paper and cardboard cuts, but it was really one of my favorite jobs. I was literally being paid to Tetris things into boxes for all day, so loved it. And then, let's go on to Noél.
So I have had many more jobs than that, as I'm in the mid-century plus mark of my life.
Century plus.
And so I started though when I was 16 as a telemarketer. Back then we used to call people to sell them stuff, as they do now. Now they have warnings on the phone, so we actually were able to get through to everybody all the time because they had dial phones and couldn't see we were calling. And actually I sold magazines. It was really easy. People loved it, and they already had them, and it was a great job for learning sales, and we worked on teams, and I made a ton of money at 16 because we got bonus, so I was able to buy a car. So I would just say, whatever age, whether you're younger, 18, or right in college, just find something that is not a grind. I'm not saying it wasn't easy. Sales is not easy, but it was a fun environment. We had bells when you did good, and it was a little nice fun atmosphere. So just find something you like, and and do that if possible, versus taking something that you don't appreciate or it's not fun. You gotta like a job. And then I've been a restaurant server. Everybody knows how that is. It's good, it's bad, it's customer service. Yeah. Just like Esperanza said, same deal. It's just serving food versus serving a shirt on a hanger. Outside sales, I moved into that. Homewares, I sold furniture and pictures and everything you have in your house except appliances and flooring. And that was fun because everybody was just shopping, and I sold to the stores, not customers. I sold actually to the stores who sold to the customers. So I was the middleman, and they needed the product. It was pretty easy. It was fun. People are so nice, and that was a great job. And as a salon owner, I've done that 30 years. I've owned 2 salons, and now I just rent a station because I just work 1 day a week. But I love my job. 30 years later, I have my clients who are just the best clients ever, and they've grown up with me. I mean, some I've had here in Arizona for over 15 years. I've lived here 22. And so, yeah, I've had some really, really good past jobs.
So my first job was in Great Clips as a receptionist. If you aren't familiar, Great Clips is a hair salon. I worked out in Cave Creek and Carefree Highway, and so
That's our Great
Yeah.
Clips.
Yeah.
That's where my kids go. That's where my parents go.
Yes.
Oh my
My
gosh.
mother owns that is the manager of that Great Clips.
Oh, they for sure know each other.
Yeah. So that was like my first job.
Yeah, small world for sure.
Small world, yes. And it was actually my first introduction to like having to like be forced to talk to people for a living, which was surprising at first because I used to be very introverted, and so I realized that I'm not actually introverted. I just didn't like the people I was talking to.
Okay.
So I'm much more extroverted than I thought. But so that was my first job, and it was a lot of fun because I got to meet a lot of cool people. Because people don't realize this, but when you're in any sort of salon environment, everyone wants to talk about things that they won't tell their even significant others.
Oh
sometimes.
yeah,
All
it's
people talk to me
it's
now.
a full-on therapy session.
So you guys
going on.
go there, you work there. I am the manicurist who they tell
Yes.
everything to. So we all have the different perspectives of the same
Yes.
thing.
Yeah, and I got to witness it from like the sidelines too, and I'm like,
Hearing
this
them?
is so interesting.
Oh yeah, they tell you everything.
Oh
It's-
my
it's
god,
crazy.
it
Well,
is
you're
crazy.
just holding somebody's hand or touching their head for an hour, you know. It's very personal. It invokes
Yeah.
the familiarity, you
Yeah.
know.
And I don't know about you, but you really should not piss off the person doing your hair because they have very sharp objects really close to your neck.
Same thing with the people making your food. Do not piss them off.
Okay, yeah, I've heard that before.
Yes.
If they're touching something that goes in or on your body, do not piss them off.
That's probably a good rule of thumb.
And my second job was Joanne's. I was an overnight freight supervisor. I started off as a freight stalker, and then I turned into their supervisor. And my biggest thing with that is don't go into any sort of really big corporate thing unless you are familiar with how corporate systems are and the lack of humanness that they seem to show towards a lot of the lower level employees. They did not treat us very fairly, and recently they have, specifically the one that I used to work at, has lost a lot of employees due to the fact that they didn't treat them right.
Oh, that's too bad.
And yeah, I'm happy that they were able to get out of the situation,
Yeah.
but biggest thing, try to avoid like any sort of like really big corporate job unless you are willing and you know what you're getting into. Because if you aren't and you don't know what you're getting into, especially as like a second job or even a first job, that can be terrifying.
Yeah, a lot of
True.
sacrifices to make.
Yeah.
All right, so we're gonna go move into current employment. So we're gonna start with me again. So like I said earlier in the beginning of the episode, I'm a MAC club leader at Madison School District. It's kind of more of a central downtown Phoenix school area. I personally would highly recommend working there. Please work with me because we're understaffed all the time.
Everyone's understaffed.
Do they pay good?
For a job where you only work 4 hours a day, yeah.
Oh,
They
okay.
pay $13 an hour. You get a $500 sign-up stipend. I don't know how to say that, yeah. So you get $250 within your first 3 months of working there, and then the other $250 after 1 year of working there. So even if you're kind of just like testing it out, you're like, oh, this is kind of for me, it's kind of not for me. Hey, get the $250 bonus.
At least you can try it out and find out.
Yeah, exactly. And so when you start there, or at least when I started, you aren't assigned a grade or a campus. So you're kind of just like jumping in. And even I was kind of nervous because I'm like, I don't really know if I like kids. I don't know how to work with kids. I don't have younger siblings. I'm not really sure how to interact with them. And it is now my favorite job.
Thing to
It
do,
is,
right?
It is. I literally don't ever stop talking about it. I
True.
love
Yes,
my
True.
job.
She talks about it all the time.
In
In
class.
fact, everything comes around to the kids
It
because,
does.
but it's because you've learned now to have an unruly bunch of kids,
Yeah.
and you are using that with other unruly bunches of kids. Being
I love
Victory,
it.
because we're unruly. She's our moderator,
I am.
and she's moderating kids all day, so it's actually been a great job for you.
Yeah, and a great leadership role. But I work with kinder kids, and I absolutely love my job. And it is the first job I ever had that I actually felt like I belonged somewhere, and I felt needed and recognized. And I feel like recognition is something really important to me, especially in a job. So when you get something like that in a job, even if you're only working 4 hours a day and you get weekends off and holidays and a $250 living anniversary month, which is why you should work for me. Which is why you should work with me. Yeah, it really is one of the best jobs, and
That's great.
I honestly don't plan on leaving. I love that job. I love working there.
That's good. It's important to love your job, like
Yeah.
I said. And my current employment, like I mentioned, still a manicurist 30 plus years later, 1 day a week. Not sure how I'll ever give it up, to tell you the truth, even though I am moving into different things in my life with work. I'm in criminal justice studies, something else I've always been passionate about, really also since I was like 18. But the salon is a really happy place. I mean, Victory working there with her moms, I mean, she knows when people come in, they're usually they're in a good mood. Not always. There's always the person, but typically it's a happy place to work, you know, for me, for them, and you have good friends because you see them every 3 weeks for years and years, probably more than sometimes your other friends. So it's not that lucrative. You definitely have to decide, if you're not trying to get rich, it's a great job. But to get rich you can get rich at the job too, don't get me wrong, especially on the hairstyle side, which I only do nails, but you have to put in the hours. It doesn't happen overnight. You've got to get trained, you've got to do your time, and yeah, you can make a lot of money, but not quick, because you're building your clientele and you need to stay stationary and stick with it and not move around a lot. So those are kind of key things in the industry that kind of work against you if you do. But it is a great job overall, and I love it every day, and every time I go, I still think, oh my God, I have these people today. This is gonna be an awesome day. I thought it the other day. I'll think it next week. I have great clients coming in. So anyway, still doing that, probably always will. And then I also, full-time student like we said, but I also just started in a media role as a pseudo news personality. My business card says political busybody, courtesy of my boyfriend. He thought of that. And I'm just talking to people around our state. I've talked to some candidates, and now I'm talking to small business owners because I own a small business and I want to promote local small businesses after COVID. The people who stayed open, who are still struggling to get business back, who need to know, I want people to know that they're open. So a lot of what I'm doing is events around town, fun events, concert events, so people can see, hey, we're open for business in Arizona. It's a great place. There's lots of fun things, lots of things for family, everything I go to is really family events. And also promote, you know, what's happening in the world with candidates here, candidates in other states, so people know what's going on in those states too. But to kind of get all sides of it, if possible. Who will talk to me, it's all dependent upon that. It's Patriot Mom, I'm plugging it, Patriot Mom 007 on YouTube, Instagram, and all the other channels. I know they're gonna kill me, but she is Victory is gonna have my head after we're done, I guarantee it.
Plugging yourself.
If we come back in and I'm not in this chair, call 911. Call 911, and then immediately go check where Victory is. Alibis, you can't be her alibi. So,
right.
Okay, so.
No, I'm not even there. I'm sitting in my car eating my lunch or something. I'm not involved in this situation.
I'm just saying, get involved somehow, get involved at work, find a great place to work, get involved online, get involved in somewhere that you're trying to make a difference for yourself or your family around you or your community.
Yep.
And that's really the takeaway, I think, for a job, is do something that you're passionate about.
Speaking of passion.
Yes.
Yes.
So my current employment is I am a field manager for grassroots voter outreach. So pretty much GVO is a nonprofit that gets commissioned by other nonprofits to do fundraising and or like petition work. Because in like Arizona specifically, I know as much as like other states, you have to have certain licenses, like your company has to have certain licenses to do this kind of canvassing. And grassroots does have that, so that we are able to do this. There's other small nonprofits that do it as well. We usually end up getting to know a lot of the other groups as well. It's really cool. It's a really good job if you want to get involved in the political scheme of things, especially if you are happy being outside and talking to people nonstop every day. But like, it's really fun for me. I get to meet a lot of really cool people, and we are also hiring, but like,
No, work for me instead.
we get paid more, and we get Commission. So I think
What do you do?
we
Wow.
get paid.
But changing a
15 an hour.
child's life is something
Oh.
irreplaceable. No, I'm
Okay,
just kidding.
again, this is where we're talking about two totally separate things, and we cannot put the two together and
I'm
compare
just kidding. I'm
them.
just kidding. No,
we're
sorry.
See how that works?
Yeah, but we're gonna go over to advice now, starting with Esperanza.
Okay.
But you would recommend that job? Like,
Oh,
that's a cool
most
job to
definitely.
get
It's-
out there, break
It's
out in
a
the
lot of
world.
fun, and you get to meet a lot of cool people.
Yeah.
I love all of my coworkers.
Let's just plug it. How did they find it?
Oh no, that's part at the end.
Oh, we're doing that. At the, oh, okay,
Yeah.
cool.
Okay.
Thank you,
Okay.
moderator. Thank you, moderator.
Okay. Okay, so now onto our advice portion. We're just gonna run through this part just real quick.
Alright.
So any advice for people thinking about applying to these kinds of jobs or just starting a new job in general or thinking about switching career paths? Do not be afraid to ask questions. It's one of the most important things. Request more training if you feel that you really need it or you need help and you're not sure. If you need a mental health day, take it. Take that mental health day. And then in case you're like, oh, I don't know if I want to take a mental health day, if that's gonna mess up my hours or something like that. If you find your job more important or you're thinking about it more than you're thinking about yourself, your friends and families, please remember that jobs are replaceable, but friends and family are not.
Very true and very good. Esperanza, I always tell Esperanza she's so mature for her age. It makes my heart happy to see everybody turning out like such great adults. It really does. As the old person
Well, when
in
they're
the
under
room.
my care, who knows?
I know. No, I think you're making good little adults. You're making good little humans in your camp. So I'm going to say also, never be afraid to take a chance on a new job or a career if it's something you feel passionate about. You probably won't be disappointed. You might be disappointed by people you work with. That's the thing, no matter where you work, unless you are the owner and don't have to deal with any of the other stuff and you isolate yourself. Otherwise, you're gonna have to deal with people you don't like throughout life, no matter what you choose to do in your career or anything else. So go for it. I would say go for it. Don't wait till you're older and it's harder. Just go for it when you want to. Always remember, I would say that the work that you put in is the reward that you're gonna get back. So as I tell my boys, you wanna work as hard as you can because you're gonna get way more back than just kind of going through the motions, you know? I heard one time somebody told me C's, like the letter C, C's to get degrees in college. Somebody told me that before I came to college. And I was like, what does that mean? And they're like, you know, like if you get C's, it's good enough. You're still getting your degree. And I'm like, what? Where did you hear that? He was a doctor. He was a doctor. Where did you hear that? And why would anybody go around college saying that? That
I
is
mean, okay,
horrible
but
mantra,
to be
no?
fair,
It's
don't-
true.
It's true, A, and B, it also makes it so that a lot of people, like, who came from, when I was in high school, I ended up, like, getting myself really injured because I was too focused on school that I gave myself a stomach ulcer because I was so stressed.
There's that too. Okay, there's
Yeah,
that
so
too. You're right.
it puts that, it, like, lessens the stress a lot of kids will, like, have on themselves going in.
Oh, okay, to
So I
make it
feel like-
less like so hyper grade wise.
Yeah.
And then
Okay.
not only that, but I'm a mathematics major and I'm currently struggling in my only math class. So
Okay.
yeah, sometimes C's do get degrees and sometimes
Okay, there
it may
fair.
not be, well, because I'm more looking forward to teaching. I'm not really, I mean, I care about math, obviously, but I would rather teach it. That's my main thing. So if you're doing something that like kind of relates to your career, but you kind of have a different way of approaching your degree or something like that, C's getting degrees could be really beneficial for you.
Alright,
because
so
it
I
is for me
changed
right
my,
now.
I admit I changed my position. So see, I've always thought how important it was, but you just explained to me, I've never really thought of it like that. I too get super stressed about my grades, but I never thought of it in the fact that it is not good for me to do that, and it's probably not. Actually, stress is very bad for your body.
And your grades
I learned
do
that
not,
in FON 241. That's a class you can take.
and your grades do not define you as a person or your ability to absorb
true.
knowledge.
So that's true too. So I grew up in a household where you had to get A's or you got in big trouble, and back then it was a spanking. So I grew up where you had to get A's and B's. It wasn't really optional, where you knew it was gonna happen. So my mindset is still that way. But I appreciate that the other way, because that really does allow you to kind of relax and just not be super stressed about it.
Yeah.
Also, I would say to Esperanza's first point, asking questions. If a challenge ever does come up for you at your job, whatever you're doing, don't hesitate to ask either maybe just your coworker first, if you're not comfortable to ask your boss, but then ask your boss if you need to, or the supervisor, because if you don't, you run the risk of not doing what you're supposed to or what they need, what their expectations are. And if you like your job, you want to keep it. And there's nothing wrong with asking for help. I do it all the time because I'd rather figure it out sooner than trying to figure it out later on my own. It just doesn't make sense to me time-wise to struggle through it if I could just ask somebody working with me. So I would just say, don't ever hesitate. It shows initiative, honesty, and a willingness to work with others.
All right, and as for my advice, my first thing is to speak up if you are uncomfortable in a situation, in addition to also making boundaries for yourself and your coworkers. So like, if you have someone that you are like, I need to ask this question, but they're really aggressive about it, if you're uncomfortable, tell your boss. Telling either your boss or another coworker can make the situation a lot better for you in the long run. Don't put yourself in a situation that you are uncomfortable in and continue staying in that situation. Do not do that. It's not worth it. And I also, my biggest advice though is your mental health and your physical health is so much more important than any job or any work that you are doing.
Right.
Especially if you're working in jobs such as like retail or like any sort of customer service. Your health and your safety is so much more important. So those are always so, like, that's the biggest thing that if you can take away anything, just your own health and mental health is like so important compared to your job.
Right, you can't, it's hard to get that back when it goes too far, so it's better
You only
to catch
have
it
you
at
only have
first.
you only have one life, and if you're living it, worrying and stressing about work or school, then you're not really
Living your best life.
Yeah.
You're not living. And actually, I just want to shout out because Honors 201 is a class we are doing our podcast for, PVCC Student Lens Podcast on YouTube, Spotify, and Instagram. And what we just talked about in occupations, we've actually been talking about in the Honors 201, our leadership class. Leadership management is what it is. And even to Victory's point about speaking up if you're uncomfortable with the situation, that could be a sexual situation or just a workplace situation. Maybe you're not being treated equally in the workplace just as a worker. So we talk about management styles in our Honors 201 class, and different managers are going to do it differently. So you just have to know that you need to speak up regardless of management style that we find can be really overbearing, right? We've learned about, or really passive, but you have to be assertive and just, speak up for yourself.
And
like
if
she
you
said.
or someone else you know is struggling with sexual harassment, please call the sexual assault hotline at 1-800-656-4673. And then just to wrap up, just real quick, in case you want to talk to us, contact us, find out more information on these jobs or the podcast overall, you can always find us at Student Lens Podcast on Instagram, Spotify, and YouTube. My email is, we'll put it in the description box.
They're a little long.
But on Instagram, my username is IHOP, like the restaurant, wine, like the drink, and aunt's like your mother's sister. And then on Instagram.
And on Instagram, you can find me at, Victory's gonna love this,
Oh,
Patriot
you're
_mom
I just give you
007. She gives me just crap all the
I
time.
do.
She secretly loves me. It's gonna be revealed in the final episode, I'm sure.
I don't know about
Watch it. That's why you guys wanna watch all along. Oh, I
That's
don't know.
where we
See?
all hug
So,
each other.
That's right, we all hug each other.
Oh.
Patriot _mom _007. Find me on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, and on YouTube for our Student Lens podcast.
And then my personal Instagram is at victory.ginger. And if you DM me through there, I can definitely answer any questions you might have about the job as well.
And then that is today's episode on occupations.
Do you say bye?
Oh, yeah. So this is Victory.
This is Noelle.
And this is Esperanza.
This is the PVCC Student Lens podcast.
Bye.
All right,
Bye.